Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network. Hi, this is Amit Doshi, and I wanted to thank each and every one of our listeners. It's been 2 years since I founded IVM, and it's been an amazing 2 years. We wanted to learn a little bit more about who is listening to our shows, and so we put together a short survey. The survey is anonymous, and we aren't going to be collecting any personal information. I would really appreciate it if you could take a couple of minutes out of your day and go to ivmpodcast.com/survey and fill it out. Thanks, and please keep listening.
Welcome to a new episode of IVM Likes. I am Sharanya, and today in the studio we have with us Naveen and Josh.
Hello.
Hi, guys.
Josh is here. I'm so happy. This is his first podcast
Yes,
appearance.
this is such a big special thing for IVM Likes.
Yeah, he's losing his virginity.
My podcast virginity.
Welcome to the studio, Josh.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Now, can we hear your real voice?
My real voice. This is my real voice.
And it's heavy as hell.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it.
Thank you.
Okay, so today we're going to do a quick round of recommendations, of course, of a book, a movie, and a TV show. And then we're going to get into a conversation about our favorite stand-up comedy specials. It's
Yes.
going to be super fun. Let's start with Naveen. Naveen's going to recommend a movie.
Yeah, so in the recent past, I haven't really liked a lot of sci-fi films. Most of them have turned out to be so terrible. But once in a blue moon, a good sci-fi film that really changes the game comes around. And so this happened with me in 2014 when I watched 2 movies. First one was Edge of Tomorrow, and which was a great movie. It's like Groundhog Day done in a new fashion.
So it's Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah. But then the next movie that I watched in the same day, and this literally you can't watch 2 mind-blowing movies in one day, but this movie blew my mind even more. It's called Predestination, starring Ethan Hawke and Sarah Snook. And it's a sci-fi film about time travel, and that's pretty much what I'll tell you.
Okay.
All right. Nope, I won't tell you any of the plot because you have to relish this movie. You have to really.
Okay.
It's an experience of a film which is massively grand in storytelling and so epic in that regard. But it's a movie that loses out so much. In terms of, it was not released in a big budget platform, or it was not given that kind of release or promotion. So I speak to so many nerds who talk about time travel, but they don't know about this movie, and I'm really angry with people for not watching. So I strongly recommend watching Predestination. It's a great movie. It's so good that it'll be a epic in some years, but not now. It's right now in the making. Yeah.
Wow. Tell me at least a little bit about what happens, what are the characters?
Okay. So
what is their job?
So there's only 2 characters. Essentially, the movie is run by 2 characters who meet at a bar in New York, and this is around the time when there's a bomb scare going around. And the bartender is trying to be friendly with the customer who's walked in, and the customer is disgruntled and very angry at how the country is shaping up, and he's actually supporting the bomber. And these 2 guys start having a conversation about their stories. And the customers come in. The guy, he's rolling a cigarette and tells him that I was born a girl. And then the movie really kicks off.
Oh, wow.
And they tell each other their past stories, and then they decide to time travel back to a time where something went wrong, and they try to correct it. But as you know, with time travel, you never really get to correct the wrong, but you would just mess it up even more.
Right.
And but the way it comes together in the end, though, I don't know. I can't it's so beautiful. Why can't more sci-fi movies be like this?
All right. Predestination. I always feel when there are time travel movies and people always ask you this question of if you could do it, what would you go and do? And the assumed answer is always that I have to go back and kill Hitler. I just feel that's impossible. I wouldn't know how to do that.
Yeah, and why would you go to 1942, of all time?
I mean, the idea is that if you could save humanity from one big thing, if you had that power, it's an incident that killed many, many people.
Then I would go to Noah's Ark.
I always think of since I know all the hits from the 80s, if I play the 80s songs in the 20s, that would interest me.
What a self-interest.
Or start the flower power movement way in advance.
Yeah. So just kick off all that shit since you have a retrospective.
Yeah.
All right, next up is Josh. Josh is going to recommend a TV show today.
Okay, so the TV show that I'm going to recommend is Orphan Black. This was recommended to me by my bandmate Raya, Becky Fernandez. And this show is it is science fiction, but it's in a category, I looked it up, it's called biopunk.
Oh, okay.
So the premise of the show is essentially there are these clones of this one woman, and they all sort of start discovering each other. They've all reached the age of, I think, their late 20s or 30s, and they all start finding out that there are these other clones of themselves kind of thing. And one of them dies. That's how the episode opens. And then it sort of deals with this kind of conspiracy of how these clones came about, what research was done.
Wow.
But I know that they consult like actual scientists who actually do cloning and all the bioethics that deal with it. So there's one aspect is like the science sort of bio stuff, and the other is like the sort of sisterhood that starts building between the clones. And the clones are played by this woman, Tatiana Maslany.
Yeah.
And she plays like 9 to 10 different characters in the show. She's literally in every scene, man. And there's currently 4 series out. The 5th season is coming out this year. But each season is like 10 episodes. And it's just mad to see. And her background is improv. And it's just mad to see how many characters she plays and how you just kind of get into each character, even though they're all like they're the same person. You know? But she plays it so well.
And that's improv 101 as well, to imbibe the character. And
So Orphan Black is a horror thriller, right?
So that's why. So horror, thriller, science fiction.
Okay.
So it's got like this kind of murder mystery kind of thing, but also like what the conspiracy is, like what organization like approved of this. Because there's one side there are these Neolutions, which are like these sort of cultist sort of Scientology type people, I guess. And then on the other side you have the scientists who like who were involved in the project, and there's some big
but I like
conspiracy.
how a lot of new TV shows are doing this now, like merging genres to create something entirely
it's really
different.
nice, especially the science stuff, which I would never watch as an independent sci-fi whatever, but as a thriller or in anything else, I really enjoy it.
Even Dirk Gently, for that matter. He came in with like time travel and science, but also had humor.
Comedy.
Comedy, murder and all that.
All right, thank you, Josh. Now it's my turn. I have to recommend a book today. So I'm going to recommend a really old book that I reread this month called The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. It was written in 1985. The reason I reread it is because next month Hulu has a TV show based on that. So I figured I might as well like catch up. It stars Elizabeth Moss and Samara Wiley from Orange is the New Black. And it's a really interesting story because it's kind of dystopian in a way. It's based in kind of the near future where a military dictatorship has taken over. There's no democracy and human rights are of no value at all. And women's rights are practically just non-existent.
That's Syria too.
Yeah, I mean, that's what. It's near future. It's not really, it's totally possible that it could be now.
Present day Syria.
Right. The women have specific roles, and most of it, like the person we are following, the Handmaid's Tale that we are hearing, is this handmaid called Offred. Offred because she literally is off Fred, as in she belongs to this commander called Fred, and she's only used for reproductive purposes. Like he has a wife, but the women, handmaids, are just for reproductive purposes.
Wow.
And if you are barren, you are pretty much an unwoman, you're not allowed in society. Older women are Marthas who run the domestic, houses, and they take care of like the cooking and stuff. And we're following this girl called Offred, who basically is trying to deal with this life that she used to live in the 20th century. She had a child, she had a job, she had a husband, she had a house, and all of that's taken away. And now they have to like adapt to this new future where they have no rights at all. I know it sounds extremely bleak, but it's actually not in a way because it is a little bit hopeful because even though they live in this situation, they still find small ways to rebel. Whether it's stealing a fashion magazine from the wife or like smoking a cigarette secretly or like getting butter for breakfast and then saving it so they can use it as hand cream because like cosmetics are banned.
So these wives are given more privilege than
the wives actually have no privilege. They're just wives by name.
Okay.
They don't have sex with their husbands. They don't have any real value except that in name, they have no work, that is. And the handmaids and the Marthas, they're not allowed to talk to each other. They have a special uniform. So every time they talk to each other, it's literally rebelling against the system because you could be arrested. Anyway, so the book A Handmaid's Tale ends with an academic memoir that's written 100 years after this society doesn't exist anymore and people are doing research about it. So from the future, it seems to be, I'm assuming that she did survive because she writes memoirs that are found many years later.
Okay.
Overall message in the end, of course, is that the regime did fail and the women and the human spirit did survive, but it is still fairly bleak because it doesn't seem that it doesn't seem that impossible now that a whole bunch of people would lose their rights entirely because it seems to be happening currently.
Yeah, correct.
So it feels really close, but it is still dystopian. I read this book many years ago, so when I reread it again because I wanted to watch this TV show so I could remember all the characters, it just felt like, oh my god, this seems so
Still
real and
relevant,
so now and so current. But it's a great book. It's a really short book called The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. It won the Booker Prize that year.
At least I know now when shit goes sideways in our country.
No, I want to read it.
Like maintain a journal myself. So
Definitely maintain a
somebody
journal.
Find it. Anne Frank did it. This girl did it. So I'm like, tweet now.
Maintain a tweet log.
Yeah, for the world to see.
Sometimes, like, I feel like just tweeting or like putting out photos of your own life is such an act of like strength and rebellion. Like, I can care about myself
Precisely.
and it's fine. I don't care about.
Yeah.
I still have the right to say this.
Yeah.
Correct.
Which is very nice.
Even a
No,
selfie is like just a
Yeah.
expression of myself.
Yeah,
being
it's
like,
really nice.
I enjoy my face, so I put it out.
Such
Don't
a
like-
validation.
Yeah.
And it's a good record also, man. Like, you know how you get those Facebook memory things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just you forget all the stuff you've
Yeah,
done like
yeah.
4
That's
years
true.
ago. So
That's true.
it's
That's
interesting.
I think about this a lot sometimes when I look at like my old photo folders to like organize or delete something. I've taken so many selfies, but I just feel like this is so nice. I really liked how I looked at that day.
Yeah,
I really
yeah.
enjoyed my face
Yeah.
and my body, and it's nice.
And there's a tangible memory attached to
Yeah,
that photo,
it's quite
so
nice.
it's always a good thing.
And honestly, self-portraits have been there for. So people who are doing it just took forever.
Yeah.
That's all.
Correct. But the thing is the selfie culture is kind of considered vain,
Yeah, but that's
but it's actually not. I feel like that's such an empowering
the
thing
kings
to just
would do
like.
it, and now the plebeians can also do. So the kings are angry. Like, how can they also get the
That's
portraits?
right.
we got a
That's
class
right.
war on our hands, man. She.
All right, so Josh recommended Orphan Black.
Yeah.
Naveen has recommended Predestination, and I'm recommending The Handmaid's Tale. Let's take a quick break and come back, and when we'll discuss our favorite stand-up comedy specials.
Hey Dilnaz, have you tried sex toys?
No, I've not tried sex toys, but I've tried sex.
Sid, why are you asking me this weird question? Who talks about sex like that?
We do.
Really? We do.
We also talk about dating, condoms, and orgasms.
On our show X and Y, where we have a casual conversation about sex and relationships in India.
X and Y is available every week on Stitcher, YouTube, the IVM podcast app, or any other podcasting app you prefer.
So I guess we do talk about sex. Like that.
Hello and welcome back to IVM Likes. Joshua, Sharanya and I are talking about stand-up specials in the second part of the episode. Usually what happens is I'm a stand-up comedian myself, and I get a lot of new open micers who come to me after shows. They ask me like, what should I watch? What should I watch in comedy? And I'm like curious as to what they have already watched, and I ask them, what have you watched? And they tell me about a bunch of Indian stand-up comedy specials, and I think that's not fair for an aspiring stand-up comic or for anybody in general to get a gist of what comedy is about and what it's like. You have to really go out there and watch the talent out there, like, you know, because UK and US and Australia have been producing comics left and center for many years now, and there's some great names out there that we missed out on. George Carlin, you say Wanda Sykes, Eddie Murphy, Jim Jeffries, then you say Bill Burr, you say
Dang.
Yeah.
Just take
So many good ones.
I know, there's
so many good
stand-up comedy
comics.
is such a nice evolving culture
Yeah.
that's like just gets better and better.
Yeah.
I really enjoy
So now we're going to talk about our favorite stand-up specials.
Yes.
We'll do one that we recently watched and one of all time that we really enjoy.
Sure.
So let's go with you, Sharanya.
Oh, me? I don't think I have an all-time favorite actually. I don't think I've always watched stand-up, but I've never been a follower of like stand-up specials till I think I had the access to do it.
Yeah.
I think the first that I remember actually being excited about release was Louis C.K.'s Live from the Beacon Theatre, which is such a great stand-up set. But in the past couple of months, I watched a few that I really loved. One of them is John Mulaney's Comeback Kid, which I really enjoyed and it was so funny. Also, another one that I was obsessed with last year is Bo Burnham's Happy.
Yeah.
It's a musical set that
You
he
can't
does.
not like Bo Burnham.
It is so good.
so
And it's one of those
entertaining.
really, it's kind of, again, really sad, but really funny specials. He sings a lot of songs in it. Some songs are so deep. I'm always caught off guard when comedy gets too deep, even though I know that that's kind of the base of what comedy is. That's human conditions, but I'm always like, every time some comedian does like this really funny bit, and then there's some really deep, amazing
Insightful, yeah.
insight. I'm just
Yeah.
like, wow, that's right.
Yeah, man. And that's what I admire Bo Burnham for that matter, because like you see musical acts, you see comedy acts, and then this guy's combining them and then taking the dark side of the comedy as well. And he's multitasking so beautifully.
If you don't want to watch the whole special, I recommend at least watching his Kanye rant song.
Yeah.
It is one of the most, like the use of light and sound and just him singing is so beautiful.
Kanye would approve.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, like when the stand-up set came out, if you went to Bo Burnham's website, it opened with just like one question: are you happy? You could say yes or no. And I just felt like this is too difficult a question. I cannot answer this. Another one that I really enjoyed that I watched recently is Neil Brennan's Three Mics. Initially I thought it was a little gimmicky, the idea of it, because he has 3 mics on stage. One is for one-liners, one is for his stand-up set, and one is for just deep emotional conversations. The one-liners are okay, the stand-up is okay, but that deep stuff is really good. The emotional stuff is really good. He talks about his dad and his family, and it's genuinely like he switches so fast between the three that it catches you off guard, but it's also really, really good. And I just finished watching last night Mike Birbiglia's new comedy set called Thank God for Jokes.
I love the poster as well.
Yeah,
Very
it's
nicely.
really good. I think if I'm following comedy and if I'm following comedy movies, I really follow Mike Birbiglia because he does so many that are comedy insightful special ones.
Yeah,
like his movies are all about comedy.
Yeah, and he made like a good movie on stand-up as well as
on
improv.
Yeah, Sleepwalk
Like,
with Me, right? Is the stand-up one.
And then there's Don't Think Twice for the
Don't Think Twice
yeah.
is the one with improv, which is really nice about how an improv group breaks up when one of them gets too successful. Just nice insights into comedians and comedy.
Josh is nicely looking at me like a smug face.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
I
you're,
feel
you're,
like
you're,
his biography is coming.
yeah, I have arrived, Josh.
Yeah, here it comes.
All right, okay. Josh, tell us what you like, man.
So, recent stand-up comedy show I saw was Ali Wong. A friend had come over, one of, again, Becky's friends, but she was talking about, I can't remember, it was something about not being able to differentiate between homeless people and hipsters. Like, there was some really good bits there.
And she's pregnant throughout the set. Right?
Yeah.
She's pregnant
She talks
throughout.
about like having to have this baby in her stomach and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
It's really crazy. All time, I would say there are two stand-up specials I can think of. One is there's this Bill Bailey special called Part Troll. That was actually, I think, the first stand-up special I really watched. And it was just amazing because it had, he had the big screen behind him, he had the music, and then the surrealism and all that. And it was just like, I'd never seen anything like that. And it was like a full-on show, So it's like a one-man music show. And he was also, there was a lot of political stuff because at the time Bush was president. So that was also interesting to see how he mixed that in.
Bill Bailey is very insightful. And again, like Bo Burnham combines music and theatrical effects.
And a lot of satire. And all that.
Yeah.
Like he really takes a poke at like a whole range of issues as well. I remember he was poking fun also at this supermarket chain called Argos. It's a place where you go look through a catalog, you pick what you want, and then they bring it on. It's so weird. That and the other stand-up special I can think of is this one the Richard Pryor live in concert.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
That's a famous one.
That's really
like
good too.
that's definitely
That's him at the peak of his career.
Yeah.
But definitely that one inappropriate joke in that thing is the one about the Chinese man stuttering.
That's the
Like that is.
But
the
you know
only-
how many comics in India have become famous by copying material from that set?
Really?
It's not even funny. I would drop
I'm sure.
5 names right now.
I had
But
no
I
idea.
won't. Bill Burr is someone who's really an inspirational comic because he's outspoken. If he brings ideas, he backs it up with credible humor. And so his new special, Walk Your Way Out, is a classic example of how he reinvents himself again for the new special. It came out right before the elections, right around the elections actually. He recorded before the election. He didn't know what's going to happen, Trump or Hillary. He's like, them both. Got both shit people. Like he's just screaming at how Hillary is shit and Trump is shit. And he's like, we're in a situation, and he's screaming and he's angry, and it's classic Bill Burr. There's an entire bit that he does about how like he's figured out how to deal with overpopulation. He's like, just sing the cruise liners. Like look at the kind of people. Look at the people who are going on cruise liners. Those people are not in a hurry to go anywhere. Just kill them by the millions, and then we have a balance. This guy has no rush to make decisions in his life. He has no flight to catch or anything. He's got a cruise
He's
liner.
got a
That's
cruise
true.
line.
He's already reached like the most relaxing possibility of life.
Yeah, he's not being productive. Not being a productive.
Things that he can say can be jarring, but also really beautifully put together. Bill Burr is someone, and I'm so angry because of the fact that people just knew him after Breaking Bad. Like he was on Breaking Bad, and that's how people promoted him when he came to India. Like, you've seen him on Breaking Bad, now see him live. No, watch his stand-up comedy first, and then see him live.
That's true. Tell me something. As a stand-up comedian, do you prefer sets that are literally just one guy, spotlight on me, here's my mic, or do you like ones that have sketches and have pre-videos and a little?
No, I was actually going to bring this up, and because we were talking about Bill Bailey and Bo Burnham, who have musical instruments and lights and theatrical quality.
It's fairly heavy production.
But I personally just want a spotlight effect. Okay. I think for one reason, basically being that every art form has its own logistical, advantages. If you have music, you can play something, and then the audience is marveling at the fact that you're playing a guitar so beautifully. But when you're doing comedy, it's a real evaluation of what you're saying, and you get a real reaction. For that 1 hour, for one person to be holding that entire thing together,
correct,
the entire crowd's audience's attraction is on that person, attention is on that person, and he's keeping it together. and only his words are doing that.
That's
That is power for me. I think that is just something beautiful. It transcends,
It's
normal
true, man.
normal theater or normal anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think with comedy also, part of the marketability of it is because you only need like a mic
A
and
mic,
a purse.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
You know.
Just have to show up.
Is
Yeah.
there a stand-up special you guys were disappointed in? I mean, I feel like now that we have your
The good ones.
Netflixes, I watch so many and then I abandon some of them halfway through because I feel like it's just not. It's not going where I want it to go, or I'm not expecting whatever it is that it's supposed to give me. I just don't get it. I think one was the one that won an Emmy last year, Patton Oswalt, for Thank You for Clapping.
Yeah.
Which I started watching because it won an award, and I was like, I've never seen it, and I've never seen Oswald's comedy, but it just was not like.
But his earlier specials were hilarious. I used to love watching
I just don't get it. Like, there's so many
This is
comedians.
the
I
one
feel
he
like,
talks about his wife's death
Yeah,
in this.
yeah. I
But
just-
people have lauding.
I see you like to watch all the emotional stand-up comedy shows.
No, that's not true at
Yeah,
all.
all the emotional ones. you're
That's
talking
not
about.
true. That's not at all true, guys. But that is true. I do like some deep comedy because I feel
Yeah.
like, how did this person make me feel like this? This is amazing. That's what's amazing
She
to
wants
me.
to come crying after a comedy show.
But no, nothing. Like what happens is in the comedy clique, right? Like if something's not good, then they tell you pehle se only. The comedian friends will be like, "Don't watch this, not worth it." So I never went
I
to
mean,
watch
to be
it.
fair, like there are comedians that I outright do not like. Even though lots of my friends find them really funny, and I'm not saying that they are not funny. I just don't like their comedy. Like Anthony Jeselnik is one of those.
Who?
Anthony
I
Jeselnik.
just don't like Jeselnik's comedy, and all my friends love his special so
because
much.
he's dark and edgy. And
I just don't find it edgy.
even I don't like him.
I
Actually.
just don't find it edgy. It's
I
not.
don't know who this person is.
He's the kind of guy who would basically say, what is there in making fun of the shooting at the movie theater of people who went to see that movie? And be like, other than the shooting, how was the movie? And when people call him out on that, he'll just be like, well, those people shouldn't be on Twitter right now anyway. Some bullshit like that. And it's like, why? You could just keep your mouth shut, no? For 2 minutes.
He sounds like a troll.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. His comedy is kind of like troll comedy.
Yeah. He's suave looking, he's smart, thin, Caucasian, so you can
Yeah.
say. But anyways, who are we to judge?
Yeah, that's true.
But it's interesting troll comedy because do you think Billy Eichner is a troll comedian?
No, he's original. He's got his own voice.
He's
But
got
that's
a
the
very
thing. But
something
he's a
that's
good
really
troll
special.
comedian, I would say.
Yeah, but then
He kind of trolls
He
people.
entertains. Like
Yeah, it's not.
Because I feel like
it's not-
Graham Norton can be a bit of a troll.
See, it's not
sometimes.
trolling to be mean. It's
Yeah,
not trolling to
it's
be
not trolling
insensitive.
to
It's
be-
just trolling to be really cheeky about something,
he's
which
the
is fine.
character is playing a game. That's all
Yeah.
it is. To be
I
like
think
him.
I don't think they're the same level of trolls.
Like if you see him next to Conan, now you'll realize how much mellower he is because he
Yeah.
lets Conan have the spotlight, right? He's that kind of comedian who won't interfere in your thing, but when he's running the show, if
He's
he's running on the streets, he's actually
full
running.
on,
It's
like-
full on out there.
Alright, that was our episode of IVM Likes. I hope you guys had fun. Thank you, Naveen and Josh.
Thank you, Sharanya.
That was great. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Josh. If you guys have any stand-up comedy specials that you want to recommend to us, please find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are IVM Podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Hey man, just help me out, man. I need some podcast, man. I haven't had a fix in a week. Just need some.
Don't you worry about it. I got podcast galore for you, man. Just go to ivmpodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Thanks, man. I'm gonna check it out.